Hello, my friends. It is Fiona Morris of Nourish and Flourish. I'm wishing you a very happy new year of 2022. And hot on the heels of the new year, we have today's new moon in Capricorn, which falls on Sunday, the 2nd of January, 2022. It's exact with the sun in Capricorn today at the time of recording 1833 GMT, also known as universal time. So you'll need to either subtract or add the relevant number of hours depending on where you are situated in the world. So I'm just going to go over the headings for the energies of this new moon chart. I've given it the heading, renew your commitments. And yes, at this time of year, this is very often a time when we are reviewing our rituals and our routines and making resolutions. Many of us are. Some people feel a bit cynical about renewing our resolutions. However, with this fresh new feeling of a new year ahead, for those of us who feel inspired to create new resolutions, we are being energized by the new moon in Capricorn to really make those commitments. Capricorn is a sign for which the word commitment is a key word. And of course, new moons are a time of renewal. So absolutely, it is a time for new beginnings. And this day where the sun and moon are conjunct, which means that the moon is not visible in the sky, in this darkness and peacefulness of the new moon is a good time to spend time with your own thoughts and reflections. Really give yourself time to reflect and review the year that's been, the lunar cycle that's been, and look ahead to the cycle ahead, the next quarter, the next season, or indeed the next year, as far as it feels right for you, to tentatively make plans, because of course things do shift and change, and we always have the gift of our new moons to stop, take stock and reflect. So this is a very apt time for the new moon to empower our recommitments at this time. So we will be looking at the chart and seeing how we will be able to use the energies of this time to refresh and renovate and fire up to follow through on the commitments that we make and to take some inspired action to realize our dreams. So here is the chart for the new moon in Capricorn. And so I will just talk you through what is jumping out at me. So as you can see here, there is a collection of planets all clumped together in this little area of the chart, including the moon and the sun. So the moon and the sun are both at 12 degrees of Capricorn at our new moon of 2022. And as you can also see, they're at the very highest most point of this chart. Now, this chart will vary depending on your location on the Earth and the area of the chart, which all of these placements will trigger for you as an individual will vary depending on your own personal natal chart and time of birth. So yes, the chart which starts at Aries and ends with Pisces, we have the sun and moon exactly at the top. This is going to vary depending on loads of different factors, but I find it quite intriguing that the sort of baseline chart with no specific location added, as you can see here, it's just placed at 0 degrees north and 0 degrees east. So this is going to vary. according to you. But as you can see here, the sun and moon in this chart at least is at the very top of the chart. And Capricorn is a sign that reaches for the top. It likes a challenge. It will climb the highest mountain and dive to the deepest ocean to follow through on whatever goals that they set forth. So it is definitely a time with a lot of planetary power to really dig deep and reflect on any goals that you may have had for the year that's been, that may not have been realized in the way that you wished. Life does throw us lots of curveballs. We have globally been thrown numerous curveballs in the past couple of years. But this, to me, this formation that I'm seeing in the chart of the first new moon of 2022 is showing how there's a very creative dynamic formed by the aspects of the planets. I'll go into that more shortly, but first of all, the sun and moon are in the sign of Capricorn. A very determined, high climber, high achiever. So the glyph, which this little icon, which represents Capricorn, represents the mer goat. So it's the goat that the goat is an animal that climbs the highest mountains, and the fish part of the goat, the mer aspect, can scale the deepest ocean. So they aim high and they also dig deep. It's an earth sign and it's a cardinal earth sign. So they're very dynamic. There's a lot of boss energy associated with Capricorn. And we have 4 planets. So not just the sun and moon, but Venus and Pluto. And these two are conjunct, Venus and Pluto. And the sun and moon are also conjunct. Now, just to stop at this little cluster here and reflect on, unpack that a little bit. If you look over to these two, Pluto and Venus, Pluto is a sign or a planet, I should say, which symbolizes secrets, power, sexuality, taboo areas of life. And Venus represents values. It can be represent females or the feminine aspects of life. And it's been interesting to me what I've observed in the news lately about the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, where there has been many women speaking out about her abuse of power and women becoming more confident to speak out against areas where they have felt silenced in the past. So I felt that this is quite a notable news topic. I'm not going to go deeply into the news, and I rarely do, but I just find that this kind of news story really seems to be hitting the headlines, especially at this beginning of the new year, which has given women, particularly women who have experienced abuse or have felt that they've had to keep secrets, in order to protect their reputation, or to feel safe from positions of power that may have some hold over them in some ways, that this is all coming to light. And the sun and the moon are the luminaries. So although they're not exactly conjunct at the time of the new moon, as you'll see shortly, they are actually moving forwards, and they will be coming into more of a conjunction with the planets slightly ahead of them at this time. So we're seeing it kind of moving into this growing awareness. And so this is kind of the springboard into the year ahead, or certainly the cycle ahead. is almost a celebration for many women of justice served. So without going into that any more deeply, I'll also just mention that we have had Mercury that has just come out of its stellium with the other planets in Capricorn, and it's now at 0 degrees. Where are we? 0 degrees of Aquarius. So earlier today, Mercury would have been part of this whole Capricorn stellium, but it is now joined Saturn in Aquarius. So bear in mind that Saturn is the ruling planet for Capricorn. So yeah, it's not quite conjuncting Saturn at this time, but it will be, you know, in a matter of days. And yeah, so there will be a continuation of its exploration. It's Mercury is the symbol for curiosity and versatility and communication. So yeah, there's been a real voicing of these sorts of themes, also to do with power and justice and fairness, which is what Aquarius strives for. Freedom of speech, equality, brotherhood, all of that sort of thing. And so we are kind of going through some reconstruction and restructuring at this time in a big way. And we have been over the past couple of years. And this is continuing into the year ahead. So yes, that's not a drastic change. However, it is certainly informing our new moon. So we've got the sun and moon, as we say, and another interesting aspect is this line here. Now, yeah, so this line here, let's see, I'm just going to change my slide. So yeah, so this is about getting ready to refresh and renovate. So why did I choose these keywords? Refreshing. I'm thinking of Uranus here. So this line here is what's called a trine angle. So our sun and moon has one line that is connecting it to another planet, and that is this planet here, which is what's called Uranus. As you can see here, Uranus is at 10 degrees of Taurus, and it's at a trine to our new moon conjunction in Capricorn. So trines add a very pleasing, flowing energy as opposed to these square lines, these red lines, which can be more challenging and more tense. As you can see, we've got lines of sort of more easy lines and more tense lines, all sort of interspersed with each other. So where you've got a challenge, you've also got support, and they're all kind of you know, taking turns to offer support but also challenge. So this is a very active and dynamic formation that we have at this beginning of the new moon. It's definitely inspired action that we can take over this time because of this sense of ease, but also enough challenge to give us something to work with, shall we say. So another interesting point is that Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which is where Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, is currently residing. So there's this very powerful connection. So although Saturn is square to Uranus in terms of the planets, the placements of the sun and moon, which is currently transiting in Capricorn, is at a positive angle. So there seems to be this sort of contradictory energy of like a little bit, well, I say a little bit, we've got quite a lot of irritation. There's still a lot of constriction of freedom. So if you think of Saturn as limitation or constriction or creating boundaries, now this can be positive or negative or indeed neutral. At a challenging angle, and again, challenges are neither good nor bad, they just simply are what we are experiencing as a collective at this time. So Saturn is at a square to Uranus And that is giving us the opportunity to break down barriers. So what we have here is an earthy planet in an airy sign, and here's an airy planet in an earthy sign. So we've got this kind of real blending of earth and air, which are not natural friends, shall we say. Earth and air are quite inert as two elements together, and yet there's this kind of quite powerful energy. So power being represented by the kind of finality and the kind of seriousness of Saturn, in relationship to the electric and energizing and innovating power of Uranus. And and there's also this relationship with physicality or physical structures, or things that have things like the status quo, or things that have been kind of embedded for long periods of time. Saturn is related to things that are traditional, that have been, I say, values that have been kept for long periods of time. And when they come into a challenge with Uranus, we experience things like rebellion. We experience youthful challenges to structures that frankly are ready to refresh and renovate. And so although there is this square which may make it feel quite hard, we also have this lovely trine from the moon and sun. So, as I say, they're luminaries. They give us this kind of lovely balance of divine masculine, divine feminine, the mother and father, sun and moon, shining their light over the challenges that we've had. So that is forming a pleasing trine to Uranus. So where rebellion and opposition to the powers that be and so on we may find quite aggravating, so this represented by this line, there are ways in which we may be able to refresh and renovate in innovative new ways, which feel more flowing. And that is our challenge, to find some flow within, a flow and creative approaches that may not feel as challenging as they have been up until now. And this is also assisted by this lovely sextile angle to Mars. Now, Mars is a planet which is usually very challenging, very upfront, very direct, can get in your face. But when we have it at sextile to Saturn, in fact, they're supporting each other. So I'm just going to flip over here. I've given this aspect in particular, this sextile between Saturn and Mars, the heading "fire up to follow through." So what I mean by that is Saturn in itself is quite a cold, dry planet, whereas Mars is fiery. And so it can lend some of its energy to that sometimes quite severe face of Saturn, and give a bit more light-hearted energy. Now, Mars is in Sagittarius. The Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter actually doesn't have any aspects to it currently, but we are feeling the Jupiterian influence through Mars. Now, Mars is a fiery planet in a fiery sign. So, it's actually quite a blessing to have this little bit of fire, because as you can see is represented by the colors in this column. It's really the only fire that's in there. So it's bringing this kind of sense of humor, it's bringing its kind of broad outlook, its adventurous, bold character into the mix in really quite a in a really pleasing way. So as you can see here, I've flipped from one chart which has less lines in it to another chart that has some extra ones. So I'll explain that shortly, but just so that you can see that when I say fire up to follow through, that's what I mean by Mars and Saturn in this lovely sextile angle. And since I've introduced this other planet, I don't always include Chiron, but those who do follow my readings will have noticed that I often will bring Chiron into the mix, partly because I work in health and healing, and Chiron is the planetoid which represents that symbolically. And Chiron is a centaur in mythology who is the wounded healer. So that's a whole other talk in itself. However, you can see that there's a sextile to Saturn. So it's also giving this Saturnian, this very Saturnian dominated chart, this helping hand. So where there may be the ache of loss, of severity, of feeling, the pain of limitations, and maybe not being able to connect with loved ones, or the challenges of simply the challenges of the years that we've just had. There is this healing element that's coming in from Chiron by virtue of these aspects that it's forming here. This one to Mars, and this one to Saturn. So Saturn and Mars can often feel quite edgy, quite difficult. And so when we have Chiron, which in itself can feel edgy and difficult, offering a helping hand to both of these, there seems that there can be some real healing and lightness and ease that comes through really embracing our shadow side, and actually just seeing how there may be healing in situations which have been challenging and difficult, trying to see the light and humor within it. I think there has been a lot of sense of humor failure in the past year, probably for very good reasons. If we can learn to laugh, that is definitely a healing balm. If we can find the light within the darkness, of which there is plenty. We have Capricorn here with a lot of planets. And Capricorn can be, as I say, it's ruled by Saturn, which is often seen as the grandfather time, the grim reaper. It's not one that is associated with laughter and light. So yeah, having the sun bringing its solar rays into this zone means that we can find things to celebrate within it. And Capricorn is not all bad, although it can get a bad reputation at times, because it's seen as the kind of grown up who can be a little bit of a joy killer at times. But there is a lot of benefits when we embrace the more responsible side of life, the more mature side of life, when we listen to our ancestors and our grandmothers and grandfathers and our elders. There's a lot of wisdom to be had. So it's all about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which when we've got this dynamic between Saturn and Uranus, there is this temptation to just want to raise everything to the ground and start anew. And yet the challenges in really gleaning what is valuable from the past and from our elders that we want to carry forward. And so firing up will bring us this blast of energy, which gives us this uplift needed to really move forward. So in terms of applying that to yourself personally, if you can reflect back on areas that you've found challenging, that you've found it difficult to make much headway with, this could be a really good time to give some real thought to anything that may have come to a standstill or not really progress as much as you had hoped, and start really coming up with some concrete steps or some ideas or collaborations or planning really and organizations to really forge ahead. So we have these rays to Mars, which can be healing and can be energizing. So Chiron is in Aries, which is also a fire sign. So we've got this little glimmers, little candle flames or torches being held up through what could otherwise feel like quite a dark time, to kind of rev us back up again and inspire us to find some positivity to move forward into a fresh new year, which may not be entirely without challenges. And yet we are riding on this beginning of this year energy where things feel new, where there's still a sense of hope and renewal. And let us all carry that inspiration with us as far as we can into the year 2022. While being realistic that we are still moving through a challenging time. So let's move forward here. So I've gone back to, what I've done here is I've moved forward from the new moon at 18:33 GMT, forward 3 hours to 11:33 GMT. So the reason I've done that is because I was intrigued to see that this star formation occurs a little bit after the new moon, when the sun and moon have moved forward, which actually conjoins these 5 planets. They're not all completely conjunct. There are sort of, this conjuncts the moon conjuncts Venus conjuncts Pluto, and Pluto conjuncts Mercury, which has moved into an air sign. Which has moved into the sign, which actually traditionally was also ruled by Saturn. So Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius in traditional astrology, but in modern times, Aquarius has been assigned Uranus. I won't go into that anymore, other than to say that I found the symbolism of this 5-pointed star quite magical to see very shortly after the new moon. And because it falls on the same day as the new moon, I felt it would be good to bring it in, because it feels to me a bit like a wishing star. So although many of us, I always observe at this time of year that some people really embrace the newness of it, and others can feel a bit jaded and just feel a bit cynical about resolutions and making new starts, and that's absolutely okay. We started having the 1st of January when the Gregorian calendar began, and this date was assigned as the beginning of the new year. So for many of us, New Year may begin with Imbolc, which is on the 1st of February. It may be for people who are celebrating Chinese New Year. We have that at the, I think it's the next new moon will coincide with the Chinese New Year, which will be the year of the water tiger. So for many of us, that is the next, that is the new moon, the new year. And then we've also got the spring equinox later on in the year in March, around the 20th, 22nd of March. I like to see January to March really as a time where we can actually use this quarter of the year to really go deep. So don't feel that this is one day that you may or may not use to plan ahead or to reflect and take stock. We have as much or as little time as you feel is right for you to really deepen into your dreams and take the time needed to figure out your action steps and imagine what may be required for you to realize your dreams. So I mentioned dreams because we have Neptune here. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. It has been in Pisces for a while, will continue to be in Pisces throughout the rest of this year. And Pisces adds this watery element to the mix. In fact, it's the only water sign. Let me just have a quick look here. We've got, well, Jupiter's just moved in, and Jupiter's the traditional ruler. Neptune is the more modern ruler. So we've got these two have come home, and we've got the conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune later this year, which is something I'm excited about as a Pisces myself. So this brings a very dreamy, creative, imaginative, spiritual element to the mix. So yeah, so when I use the word dreams in this, I would also encourage you to pay attention to your dreams, whether it's daydreams, whether it is the dreams that you have and can remember or may forget shortly after waking, to just take note of what feels like a dream for you. And as we can see here in the chart, shortly after the new moon, so 3 hours or so, and then sort of through midnight and the early hours of the morning, GMT time, this may vary depending on where you are, there is a lovely sextile from Neptune to the sun and moon, and also to Venus. So yeah, Neptune and Venus are both very pleasant, pleasing, balmy sorts of energies. And I find that this is a really lovely angle that's also supporting this trine from Uranus to our sun and moon, which are still in a conjunction. So yeah, so when I say dreams, there is this kind of watery softness, this the realms of imagination and spirituality. So if you can spend time in meditation, in prayer, it may be for you, journaling is a way of deepening into this conversation with the divine, and whatever way this may be for you, whether it's through music, whether it's through drawing, painting, creating, yes, walks in nature, whatever it may be. It's a really beautiful time to reconnect with whatever lights you up, whatever creative outlets that you may have. And when they are connected to Capricorn, Capricorn is a sign which sometimes finds creativity quite frivolous, if it's not conducive to something pragmatic and useful. However, when Neptune is connecting with signs in Capricorn, there may be a way that combining your spiritual practice with your actual work in the world or your service to society can empower it in many ways. We do have a square to Mars, so it may be, our energy levels feel a little bit affected by it, but or we feel that we don't have the energy sometimes to do this. But I think in terms of spirituality, toning down our energy levels, or kind of finding ways to rebalance our energy, taking a bit of time out, taking time for retreat, taking breaks, things like that, finding the balance. So taking action to realize our dreams may require, more energy in doing, but it may also require doing less in some case, and creating space for the spiritual balance. So let me see. Yeah, and so I had included Chiron in this because actually this star formation, so as you can see from the new moon and sun, there are these trines to Uranus, a square to Saturn, sextile to Mars, square to Neptune, and then a trine to the sun, moon, and Venus. And if we include Chiron in the mix, there's also a second 5-pointed star. Now, it's not a pentagram, because a pentagram would fill this entire circle. So it's not a traditional pentagram, as astrologers would call it, but it does form a star formation, and stars symbolize magic and power. So I would really use the energy of the star and whatever that means for you, looking to the heavens to inspire you to really tune in and listen to what the divine voice within you has, is whispering to you for the year ahead. Create space for that and reconnect with your dreams in that way. And with Chiron also forming, so where we have the star being connected by this square from Mars to Neptune, we also have another star which connects Mars to Chiron, the wounded healer, which then connects back up to the sun and moon in Capricorn. So yeah, so there is this real healing aspect, I feel, to our new moon, our first new moon of 2022. So if you can take a bit of quiet time at this new moon to feel into what is bubbling up within you, to explore these themes over the next few days as we start moving into the new moon cycle, then this will serve you well for the year ahead. So I will leave you there. I wish your renewed commitments much energy and joviality. Joviality is not a word that we associate with Capricorn. However, we do have Mars in the sign of Jupiter, Sagittarius. So we have this kind of Sagittarian energy, which is just giving us that lovely boost that we need to renew our commitments, to find that spark of joy, despite this really heavy time that we're coming out of, so that we can get ready to refresh and renovate and really take advantage of this sense of renewal and hope that we have at the beginning of a new year. Feel that fire to follow through. It may be, we need to stoke that fire and keep that fire alive by being very intentional about how we use our energy and take inspired action to realize our dreams. So do think of actual steps that you need to take. Pragmatic steps. Capricorn is all about being practical, being earthy, being grounded, so that your dreams are not just pipe dreams, but can actually become manifested into reality. But for that to happen, we need to clear away what no longer serves. And we are doing that on a global level. So yeah, I still... I have looked at the influences for the year ahead, and it may feel that things are starting to ease up, but I don't know if we're completely home and dry yet. Do reach out to me if you would like a personal reading to see how the energies of the year ahead may be best work with from your own personal natal chart. And I look forward to seeing you again at the next new moon, which will also herald in the Chinese New Year of the water tiger. So with that, I shall say goodbye and wish you a very happy new year and moon cycle ahead. Lots of love from me, Fiona, from Nourish and Flourish.